title of the book and in the colour of the book there is a hidden and subliminal message. Who will shape this new order? We will, provided we can get through the red word. And at the heart of this is a challenge. Can we inspire people that we have such a bold idea of what Brexit can be the moment of renewal for, that people will cut us the slack to get through the Straits of Gibraltar of actually steering and delivering a withdrawal agreement? We need to focus a bit more on Brexit as a means to an end and what that end is. And I hope that you'll read this book and see in the 6 sections a cornucopia of bold ideas about that change. And I close just by saying this. I hope also in the book I asked 35 colleagues not to write to any heading, but to write what they really wanted to say about renewal and about how the Conservative Party can get up and shape the next generation. And all I did was to edit it into those 6 sections. But look at the sections, and I ask you just to ask yourself this. If we're going to make sure that Brexit isn't a moment that leads us to gifting Jeremy Corbyn a Brexit-broken Britain, then we're going to have to take on the very dangerous and compelling narrative he's telling about the Conservative Party being a heartless party of Canary Wharf capitalism that doesn't care about people and places left behind. Rubbish. And in this book, which starts with a bold section on place and identity and belonging, moves on to look at the opportunity society, then to the innovation economy, then to responsibility and social justice, then the roots of insecurity and security, and finally making the case that real security comes not from guns or money, but from the security of institutions that share values. I put it to you, we've done something else, which is to put down an intellectual gauntlet to Corbynism. We will not let you get away with misrepresenting modern conservatism, and we will take the fight to a new generation for them, by them, in their interests. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming, and it's my great pleasure to hand over to 4 speakers. You will notice there are 2 who campaign for leave and 2 who campaign for remain. That too is important. This party can come together, and in this book we are coming together. The first of our speakers, who has to go and answer parliamentary questions in about 15-20 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, will you give a big hand to Sajid Javid?
Well, thank you very much, George, and let me also welcome you all here to the launch of this fantastic set of ideas, Britain Beyond Brexit. And let me also thank all the contributors, but especially George. You're downplaying your role. You put all this together. I remember when you set up the 2020 group. Thank you for all that you've done. You're the true master of policy in the Conservative Party. Thank you so much, George. Now, if we're honest, when the next general election comes, whenever it comes, it's going to be incredibly hard for us Conservatives to win. We've had 9 years of incumbency, taking some very tough but necessary decisions. And, years of incumbency is tough for any government when it comes to elections. We haven't delivered on our central promise at the last general election, which was to leave the EU by the end of March this year, so we look incompetent. And we are very divided. And a divided country does not elect a divided party. So it's going to be very tough. Now, how do we get out of that? Lots of us said, and every single one of the candidates rightly are saying for the leadership, that first and foremost we need to deliver on our central promise, Brexit, and we need to do that by the end of October this year. Absolutely. But even if we do that, it's not going to be enough. I don't think there's going to be any real kind of electoral dividend for delivering on Brexit. Yes, our slide in the polls might slow down a bit. We might get a little bit of a bump. But if we think that we can win the next election just by delivering something that we should have done anyway, we are absolutely kidding ourselves. After all, Winston Churchill didn't get an electoral boost after winning the Second World War. So we've got to get real about this, about the challenges that really face us. And if we think delivering Brexit is actually leaving the EU, then we've got another thing coming. Because in some ways, delivering Brexit by leaving the EU, that's the easy bit. The hard bit is yet to come. Because we've got to reflect why so many people voted the way that they did in the biggest democratic exercise this country has ever seen. Why did they vote to leave the EU? Now, of course, many of them, they were thinking about the EU, but just before the referendum, for most people, the EU was sort of 7th or 8th on their list. They were concerned about housing and immigration and the economy and infrastructure and investment and jobs. And it's those frustrations which also led to that historic decision. And that's where this book comes in, Britain Beyond Brexit, because this is really delivering the Brexit result. Yes, it's beyond Brexit, but this is how we properly deliver it. That's what people are going to be looking for the answers to if we're to govern again with a majority as the Conservative Party. And that's why this work that you've led, George, is so incredibly important. The ideas in this book by all the contributors, we have a wealth of talent in this party, by all the contributors, is incredible. The energy oozes through this book. And so this is what we need to take forward. This is our agenda. This is the ideas, and boy, do we have them in the Conservative Party. So when I look ahead, when I think about the future of this country and the Conservative Party, I am actually filled with great confidence. I look at my colleagues, I look at these ideas, I look at my colleagues that are standing around me in this room. I am full of huge confidence for the future of our party and our country. And I once again want to thank you, George, for what you've put in this book with our colleagues and the ideas. And I know that, yes, we have a lot to be proud of our great country, but I know under the Conservatives, our best days lie ahead of us. Thank you very much. Thank you.
There's quite a few copies of the book stashed under here afterwards if you want a free version. George, thank you for getting us all together, for getting the creative juices flowing and putting it into one tome like this. They say politics is all about timing. I don't know quite how you knew that your launch would be spot on the leadership launch dates of so many candidates, but you've clearly got that nailed. Can I pay tribute to all of the authors, Saj, Penny, Matt Hancock, who I think is coming here, because we are clearly still a party brimming with ideas, and I think this leadership contest should be about vision and policy, not just all the other froth and frenzy that accompanies a leadership campaign. I agree with what Saj said. Getting Brexit done is a necessary condition, not a sufficient condition for winning the next election. But we should be under absolutely no doubt after Peterborough and the European elections. We will not get a hearing for all of the brilliant stuff in this book unless we deliver Brexit by the end of October. We will not even get on to having that conversation. I want us to deliver Brexit by the end of October and then to be able to paint this optimistic vision for the country. And the chapter I've written about is really trying to ask and answer the question for the Conservatives at the next election in relation to the economy: whose side are we really on? Because that's going to be the critical battleground at the next election between Jeremy Corbyn and that threat of a hard left Labour government and the next Conservative Prime Minister, Cabinet and Tory team. Our economy is still resilient, notwithstanding all the challenges we faced. According to Forbes magazine in 2018, we're the best place in the world to do business. Unemployment's at record lows. It's at the lowest level since I was in nappies. I'm sorry for those eating a morsel over lunch, but for that visual image. But actually, we've got a huge amount to be proud of in terms of our record. So let's move forward and grasp the opportunities of Brexit that lie ahead. And I spent 6 years as a Foreign Office negotiator, and one of the things I used to negotiate was investment protection deals from Mexico to Vietnam and Iran. And one of the things that lit up my enthusiasm for free trade is the opportunity for the small business that has trouble in this country scaling up after a certain level, giving them the opportunity to grow by taking advantage of the growth markets of the future from Latin America to Asia. We know those businesses that export are 20% more productive. That leads to higher wages for workers. And we also know that if we cut the cost of living, things like the EU external tariff, 17% on shoes, or, where's Chloe Smith, 13% on knitted baby clothes, Just think what we can do to ease the cost of living, not just for Chloe with a new baby, but for all those swing voters in seats like hers and ours up and down the country. That's whose side I'm on as a Conservative, as a free marketeer, as a Brexiteer. The small business, the worker and the consumer. And if we're going to grasp the opportunities of international free trade, let's also make sure that our party is the natural home of the blue-collar vote. George is absolutely right. We mustn't fall in to the elephant trap Jeremy Corbyn is going to set us as the next Prime Minister, whoever that may be. He'll want to try and paint him or her as the party and the leader of privilege that always looks after the wealthy. So when we come to cutting taxes, that's why my first priority would raise the national insurance threshold for the average worker. The average worker in this country is on £27,000 full-time. And if we cut their national insurance by raising the threshold, that will save them £461 each year. It's not a windfall for many of the people in this room. But for a two-salary couple, that's the summer holiday for the year. They're the people I want to know we're, as Conservatives, on their side. Let's take on the vested interests, which giving capitalism a bad name, particularly in gummed-up markets. The kind of sharp practice, the tying up of markets by big business that gets Jeremy Corbyn licking his lips. Let's not give him that open goal. I started my career as a competition lawyer. And I know that when the market is gummed up, from the energy market to the broadband market, it's because there's too many big players dominating, and we haven't let the small businesses come through to offer those better deals. So if I was elected Prime Minister, I would institute a competition revolution to liberate the small businesses, to challenge the big players, and above all, to give stronger clout to consumers so that they can cut the cost of living and get more choice. That's whose side I'm on, the readers of which magazine, the people hunting for a better deal, a cheaper deal on moneysupermarket.com. I think we've got a real chance to show them we're on their side. So if I'm elected Prime Minister, I want to see the consumer made king. The bottom line for Conservatives is that we win elections when we unite the aspirational working and middle classes in this country. And the best way for us to do it is with a buccaneering approach to free trade, cutting the taxes of the lowest paid in work, and making sure the consumer knows we're on their side. George, thank you very much for this opportunity, and I'm going to hand over to Penny.
Well, thank you very much. I started today by making a speech in fulsome praise of someone else. And I'm going to continue in that vein because although I was supposed to speak last, so this is slightly interrupting the sequence of things as we await Matt's arrival, but I wanted just to spend my time in praise of George Freeman. George, we all love George, and I think we ought to say a huge thank you to him for everything that he has done with this project, but also with the 2020 group, which he set up as we came in as the 2010 intake, but also to the work that he's done beyond the party as well, because if we talk to ourselves, we're not just ourselves, we're not going to get very far. And the work that he has done with the Big Tent and really engaging with other political parties in a time when people are losing faith in politics and what can be achieved through politics, I think is hugely important. Our party is packed with wonderful people, not just in the parliamentary party, I can see many of them around the room, but also across the country. And also our citizens have tremendous talents and want to help with these big challenges of our times. Huge practical experiences of getting things done in their communities, bringing people together and tackling the big issues. And although over the next few weeks we're going to see a lot of focus on particular individuals, every one of us knows that that is not what politics is about. It is about the team. It's about the party coming together, working together, but it's also about the country too. And in the last few weeks, I've had a huge privilege to meet some pretty amazing people. The large swathes of the last remaining D-Day veterans and their families. And I've spoken to them about what they did, that incredible endeavour, but also what motivated them to do it, what gave them that courage and that focus. And they said two things. They said it was about fighting for your mates, that's what got them up the beaches, but also whether they were in uniform or whether they were civilians helping with D-Day, every one of them said we felt part of something bigger. We all had a little part in it. Sometimes we didn't see the big picture, we didn't see the big D-Day plan, but we all knew that we had a stake in it, we all knew what our part was in that. And I think our challenge in politics today is to recreate that feeling. We need to talk about the issues that we're facing in terms of national missions that we can get everyone behind, so that we're not just limited by what's in the Treasury coffers. We can lever in everything that our nation has to offer, whether it's the big issues facing the world on climate change or our domestic priorities, whether it's enabling every one of our citizens to be able to reach their full potential, making sure that they have the social care and health care, the best health care that science can give them. That's what we need to do, and we can only do that by telling people what it is we're trying to achieve and letting them help. And that's where I think George has really been successful, because it's not just about getting people interested in politics or getting people to the ballot box. Politics now is about letting other people help, giving them the hope and inspiration that by doing that, by taking part, by working hard, by setting up that social enterprise, by volunteering, whatever it takes, we can make a difference and we can create the nation that we aspire to be. So thank you, George Freeman, for the 2020 group, for this book, for the Big Tent, and all that you do, not just for our party, but for our country too. Ladies and gentlemen, George Freeman.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Penny. Thanks, everybody, for being here. And what a brilliant day to launch a book whose task is to describe how we come together as a Conservative Party and deliver what is needed in Britain beyond Brexit. So my thanks too to George and to the whole team who put this book together. But really this book embodies something that I think that the current leadership campaign is also embodying. Because this book embodies a simple and important fact about British politics. And that is that the ideas, the new thoughts, the map, the roadmap for the way forward, that roadmap is being written in the Conservative Party on the centre-right of British politics, and it is an incredibly exciting time to be a Conservative where we can see that once we deliver Brexit, and we must, we then have a great future to build all together. Now, within this book, I wanted to pick out one particular area that I thought was exciting. Because this book is not just about domestic policy, important as that is, but it's also about answering the question, what is Britain's place in the world going to be? What is Britain's place in the world going to be over the 2020s? And I believe very profoundly that we need to redefine our place in the world. Having delivered Brexit, we need to go and show the world that we lead the way. We take our values as a nation and we project them across the world. Values of support for democracy, values of support for the rights of every individual. That means the rights of women across the world, the rights of people no matter who they are. And I think that the excitement in this book and the number of people who wanted to contribute demonstrates that the battle of ideas is being won on the Conservative side of the fence. Now, I think that we need to get on and deliver the ideas in this book. We need to do that by firstly delivering Brexit in a way that brings the country together, and then we need the energy and the ideas and the optimism and the drive to move our nation forward. I'm proud to have made this contribution. I'm proud to be standing in the leadership race to be the next Prime Minister, because I offer that drive and that enthusiasm. But no matter who wins, no matter who wins. I'm confident from today that the opportunity we have as a party and the opportunity we have as a country is huge and is there for the taking. Thank you very much.
What an amazing thing. 3 leadership candidates giving short speeches. Guys, thank you very much for coming. Thank you all for coming, and thank you for your kind words and for the support for what this project is about. It's a big team effort. There are 35 people who have written. Most of them are in this room, and thank you all, from Jesse to John to Chloe to all the others who are here. I'd just close with this thought. I'm started by referencing Chloe's daughter, Rosie, who is strapped on to Chloe. In the end, it seems to me this leadership challenge has a question at the heart of it. Will this moment of rupture be a moment that in 20, 30 years, Rosie looks back on and says, "What happened, Mum?" And Chloe says, "Well, I'm afraid you had to be there. After the crash, after Iraq, after expenses, public trust in Parliament and politics was seriously damaged. Brexit was the inexorable result, a roar for change. Parliament failed to deliver it. And we ended up falling out of the European Union. We ended up dividing all our parties, a Brexit civil war, and we handed a broken Britain to Jeremy Corbyn. We had a decade of decline, and so many of the achievements of the previous 30 years slipped from our grasp in a ruthless global race for competition and investment. It chills me to the bone because it is possible. It is absolutely possible. But it is equally possible that Chloe will say to Rosie, "You had to be there. A new generation of us rose to the challenge in the tradition of our forebears. We made it a moment of renewal. We delivered a Brexit that not everybody liked but worked for the majority. And then we implemented a really bold programme of change that tackled the underlying grievances." That is the dream, my friends, and if we can do it, we get to shape the next generation, not the others. The future's bright blue if we're prepared to make it. Thank you very much for your support, and thank you, Robert.
This isn't another speech, don't worry, this is pure admin. There are still some sandwiches left and some drinks left. Please do feel free to stay around and mingle. And could the authors please come up for a team photo shoot, all clutching copies of the book. And finally, if you're free on June the 25th, we're having a major conference at the Guildhall on Britain and America. It will be lovely to see you there. Just Google CPS Britain and America. Thank you.